Imagine you're driving down a two-lane road with no dividing line, and a car is coming straight at you. Now scale that up to the ocean, where ships weigh over 100,000 tons and travel at high speeds. This is the high-stakes scenario Rule 14 of the International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea (COLREGS) addresses. When two ships approach each other head-on, confusion or hesitation can lead to catastrophic collision. Rule 14 exists to eliminate any doubt. Both vessels must turn to starboard, ensuring a safe, predictable outcome. In this video, we'll break down what this rule means, why it matters, and how it keeps the world's busiest shipping lanes safe. Head-on situations at sea are among the most dangerous encounters for any mariner. When two ships approach each other, their closing speed doubles, reaction time shrinks, and the energy of a potential impact is maximized. Even a small misjudgment can have devastating consequences. Without a clear rule, confusion reigns. One ship might turn left, the other right, and disaster follows. Rule 14's clarity is crucial. It removes ambiguity and ensures both ships act in unison, drastically reducing the risk of collision. Rule 14 is refreshingly straightforward. When two power-driven vessels are meeting on reciprocal or nearly reciprocal courses, both must alter course to starboard. This means each ship turns right, passing port to port, left side to left side. There's no negotiation, no exceptions, and no hesitation. This universal agreement is the maritime equivalent of everyone driving on the same side of the road. It's a simple rule, but it saves lives every day. Fully understand Rule 14, let's clarify some key terms. Power-driven vessels are ships propelled by engines. This rule doesn't apply to sailboats or vessels under special circumstances. Reciprocal courses means the ships are heading in opposite directions, either perfectly or nearly so. If ship A is heading north and ship B is heading south, they're on reciprocal courses. Even if they're a few degrees off, if there's a risk of collision, Rule 14 applies. You might wonder why both ships turn to starboard instead of port. The answer is less about logic and more about universal agreement. By codifying one direction, starboard, everyone knows what to expect. This eliminates confusion and ensures that both vessels move away from each other, not toward. The historical choice of starboard is now a global standard, making the seas safer for everyone. Picture two massive container ships transiting the Strait of Malacca in opposite directions. Ship A is westbound at 18 knots, ship B is eastbound at 20 knots. With a combined closing speed of 38 knots, they have about 15 minutes to react from 10 miles apart. Both bridge teams spot the head-on situation and alter course to starboard by 20-30 degrees. They pass safely, port to port, with over a mile of separation. This is Rule 14 in action, simple, predictable, and effective. Frequent mistake is thinking that simply slowing down will avoid a collision. Rule 14 is clear: you must alter course to starboard, not just reduce speed. Slowing down doesn't change the fact that you're still on a collision course. Only a decisive turn to starboard eliminates the risk. Speed reduction might help, but it's not a substitute for the required action. Night identifying a head-on situation relies on navigation lights. Power-driven vessels display two white masthead lights, one above the other, a red side light on port and a green side light on starboard. If you see both masthead lights in line and both side lights, you're looking at the other vessel's bow. This is a definitive head-on situation. Rule 14 applies and both ships must turn right. During the day, a head-on situation is identified by seeing the front profile of the other vessel. If you can see both sides of their superstructure, you're viewing them bow-on. This is the daytime equivalent of seeing both side lights at night. When you spot this, act immediately, alter course to starboard to avoid collision. Perfect alignment between ships is rare. That's why Rule 14 uses the phrase ahead or nearly ahead. Even if the other vessel is slightly off your bow, if there's a risk of collision, treat it as head-on. This conservative approach ensures safety, as small angular differences can still lead to disaster if ignored. Imagine you're the officer on watch at 2 a.m. in the Arabian Sea. Through your binoculars, you see two white lights vertically aligned, a red light on the right and a green on the left. You're seeing the other vessel bow on, a classic head-on situation. The correct action? Immediately alter course to starboard by at least 20-30 degrees and monitor the other vessel's response. Rule 14C is all about safety and uncertainty. If you're not sure whether you're in a head-on or crossing situation, always assume head-on and act accordingly. This means turning to starboard even if you're only slightly suspicious. This conservative approach prevents hesitation and ensures you're legally protected if a collision is narrowly avoided. Sea conditions are rarely perfect. Visibility can be poor, lights may be dim, and vessel motion can make bearings hard to judge. The doubt clause in Rule 14 ensures that mariners always err on the side of caution. By acting as if it's a head-on situation, you avoid the risk of a fatal mistake caused by uncertainty. Doubt clause isn't just about safety, it's also about legal protection. If you act as if it's a head-on situation and turn to starboard, you're complying with the law, even if it turns out to have been a crossing situation. If you hesitate or guess wrong, you could be found at fault in a collision investigation. Rule 14 gives you a clear, defensible action. Modern ships are equipped with radar and electronic aids, but Rule 14 is based on what you see, not just what your instruments tell you. Visual observation of lights and vessel aspects is the primary trigger for action. Electronics can help, but they don't replace the need for immediate, decisive action based on visual cues. It's important to remember that Rule 14 applies only to two power-driven vessels. If a sailboat meets a cargo ship or two sailboats meet, different rules apply. For example, Rule 18 gives sailboats priority over power-driven vessels. Always know which rules apply to your vessel and situation. Like crossing situations where one vessel gives way and the other stands on, Rule 14 places equal responsibility on both ships. Both must alter course to starboard, there's no waiting to see what the other does. This equality reflects the extreme danger of head-on encounters and ensures that both vessels act promptly. Rule 14 requires a substantial alteration to starboard, not a minor adjustment. The turn should be large enough, typically 20-30 degrees, to be clearly visible to the other vessel. Early and decisive action gives both ships time to separate safely. Half-hearted turns create confusion and increase risk. Altering speed alone does not satisfy Rule 14. You must change your course to starboard. Slowing down or speeding up might help in some situations, but the rule is clear: only a turn to starboard ensures compliance and safety. Don't rely on speed changes to avoid a head-on collision. While Rule 14 doesn't mention sound signals, Rule 34 does. When altering course to starboard, both vessels should sound one short blast on the horn. This audio signal confirms to the other ship that you're taking the correct action, reducing the chance of misunderstanding. Two large container ships meet in the Pacific Ocean, both on autopilot at 20 knots. At 8 miles apart, both bridge teams identify the head-on situation visually and on radar. Both vessels immediately alter course to starboard by 30 degrees and sound one short blast. They monitor separation and, once safely passed, resume their original courses. This is textbook Rule 14 in action. What happens if only one vessel acts? If ship A alters to starboard but ship B hesitates, waiting to see what ship A does, valuable time is lost. Even if a collision is narrowly avoided, ship B has violated Rule 14 by failing to act promptly. Both vessels are required to turn simultaneously. Hesitation increases risk and liability. Two vessels are on courses 170 degrees apart, not perfectly opposite but close. One appears slightly off the port bow. At night, both masthead lights are nearly in line and both side lights may be visible. This is a nearly reciprocal situation. Rule 14 applies: both vessels should alter to starboard even if the situation isn't perfectly head-on. A frequent error is mistaking a nearly head-on situation for a crossing one. If ship A thinks it's a crossing and expects ship B to give way while ship B treats it as head-on and turns right, confusion and risk of collision increase. The doubt clause exists to prevent this. When in doubt, both turn right. During twilight, navigation lights may be visible but not crisp, and masthead alignment is hard to judge. In these ambiguous conditions, Rule 14c applies: assume head-on and alter course to starboard. Waiting for perfect confirmation wastes precious time and can make safe maneuvering impossible. Narrow channels, maneuvering room is limited. Rule 14 still applies, but seamanship and other rules like Rule 9 may influence how you act. Both vessels should alter to starboard as much as possible, use sound signals and communicate intentions. Sometimes one vessel may need to slow or even anchor to ensure safety. Some captains believe that larger ships have priority in head-on situations. Rule 14 makes no such distinction. Both vessels, regardless of size, must alter to starboard. The smaller vessel may be more maneuverable, but the larger ship is equally responsible for turning. No vessel is exempt from Rule 14. Violating Rule 14 can have severe consequences: criminal prosecution, civil liability, license revocation, insurance denial, environmental penalties, and even imprisonment. Maritime investigations focus on whether both vessels complied with Rule 14. Failing to turn to starboard is one of the clearest violations in maritime law. Mistakes like turning to port, slowing down instead of turning, waiting to see what the other vessel does, or relying solely on radar are all dangerous. Rule 14 is absolute: both vessels must turn to starboard decisively and without delay. Misunderstanding or misapplying the rule can lead to disaster. Help remember Rule 14: use the acronym HEAD. Head-on means both turn right, equal responsibility. Aligned masthead lights, doubt means assume head-on. Or try the mnemonic: two white lights in line, red and green both shine, equals head-on time, turn right. These memory aids make the rule easy to recall in high-pressure situations. As autonomous shipping technology advances, Rule 14 is being programmed into AI navigation systems. Self-driving ships must identify head-on situations using sensors and cameras, detect visual indicators, and execute starboard alterations automatically. Understanding the human logic behind Rule 14 is essential for the future of maritime safety. Whether you're studying maritime law, training as a deck officer, or just interested in global shipping, Rule 14 is foundational. Every container ship, tanker, and ferry faces head-on situations. Knowing and applying Rule 14 can save lives and prevent disasters, making it one of the most important rules at sea. Recap: Rule 14 applies only to two power-driven vessels meeting head-on or nearly so. Both must alter course to starboard with no exceptions. Visual indicators, masthead lights in line and both side lights signal a head-on situation. When in doubt, assume head-on and turn right. Course alteration must be substantial and sound signals should accompany your action. Violations can have catastrophic consequences. Rule 14 is one of the simplest yet most critical rules in maritime navigation. Its beauty lies in its clarity: both ships turn right, pass port to port, and avoid disaster. This universal agreement has saved countless lives and made global shipping safer. Whether you're a seasoned mariner or just starting out, mastering Rule 14 is essential for safe navigation.